Hi, hello everyone. Thank you for joining us today on our Web3 1:1 talk show. Today we're talking about fractionalized future of NFTs. We have with us Arnav from Nibb and Pratham as well. Just inviting you guys up to speak so you can join us. This is going to be a really fun conversation. I'm always excited when I get to talk about NFTs, and this is not going to be any different. Really, really excited to ask some interesting questions and gain some interesting insights concerning what the team over at Nibb is building and how useful this beautiful piece of software is. So, Arnav, please give us a really interesting intro about yourself and about the Nibb team and what you're building.
Okay, sure. Yeah, so I'm Arnav. I'm founder of Nibb. Got into crypto while I was still in college in 2017 doing my undergrad. Became really passionate about crypto because it had community, it had tech, it had math, a lot of interesting stuff. And I hustled my way into getting an internship at Gnosis in 2018. Since then, have worked at companies like Bioeconomy and Zelica, and then started Nibb in 2021. At Nibb, we are building a fractionalization protocol. The the main problem statement is that we want to allow multiple people to own an NFT via fractions, and we feel like very large communities and interesting communities can be built around NFT fractions. We are trying to do such an experiment with actually this doodle that you might see on my PFP, where we are going to fractionalize this and get like a lot of people to collectively own this. And yeah, right now we are just about to launch on Polygon and Ethereum. And yeah, looking forward to chatting more about what we are building, going a bit deeper as we progress.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that intro. That was a quick mix up between your intro about yourself and intro about Nibb and what's been done. Cool. So I'm curious as to why did you start Nibb? This question might have been phrased differently yesterday, but now I'm more curious as from a vision standpoint. Why did you proceed to start Nibb, build, and you're still like waking up and doing everything you do at Nibb today?
Okay, I think like there are two, three perspectives. One is like from a technical perspective, one is from a market opportunity sort of perspective. From a technical perspective, it was a very interesting problem where, I mean, fractionalization had two sort of main problems at the protocol level. One was that fractional tokens that were getting created, like because we are not the first ones to do this, right? So there are like other fractionalization players, and even in 2020 when I was just starting to get into NFTs, there was a player called NFTs. And I thought that this is a very good, interesting technical problem where the first problem is that the tokens themselves are not that liquid, and the second problem was that the buyout process was not that efficient. So these were the two main problems at a tech level that excited me to work on Nibb. And yeah, that was actually the first point all of me just hacking around and thinking on possible solutions for these problems. Then from a market perspective, I thought that fractionalization is going to be built by someone. Like there's going to be, it exists in the real world. There was this project called Masterworks, for example, that exists where you can basically you can invest in fine art via like you invest in stocks. And that platform had a lot of funding, they had a lot of users. And I thought, okay, in crypto, like that this sort of systems will also be built, because I mean, NFTs, especially the art and collectible sort of part, is sort of like actually fine art in a way, where you're just holding it. You can do interesting things with them online. Yeah, but you are holding them, right? So, from a market opportunity perspective, I thought that this protocol will be built by someone, and that's why I sort of was like, okay, this market is going to get big. And then over time, as we were building, we stumbled upon interesting ideas around collective ownership and how we can. There could be interesting social dynamics at play as well, where you could use fractionalization to create communities around a particular idea that is represented as an NFT or some cause, etc. For example, there have been like this Ukraine DAO, which fractionalized the image of Ukraine's flag, and a community was formed around it. There's Free Ross DAO, which is around Ross Ulbricht, who was the founder of Silk Road, and he had basically, auctioned off an NFT and fractionalized the same. So, I mean, yeah, now we are seeing interesting applications, but my initial thought process was this, to be honest, and I was thinking more like from a technical and business perspective, and also I saw that this is not that easy of a problem for just. It's not like you just create fraction because it sounds easy, but it's not that easy. So I thought, yeah, this problem not a lot of people can solve actually because not a lot of people are technical enough. Then, yeah, I mean, I thought that this is a business, this is a good market opportunity as well. So these were the two main reasons.
Cool. It's quite interesting that there's obviously a technical perspective and then there is a business perspective that made you pursue this. I do think the idea of fractionalized NFTs is a really interesting one, as most of the questions I have follow up will tell. And it's interesting to see that Nibb is solving this problem, and I wish you guys all the best of luck. So, while I have an idea of what fractionalized NFTs are and what fractionalization of an NFT token is and all of that good stuff, for the sake of the audience and maybe for the sake of some of the places I might be ignorant even, how did the concept of fractionalization come to be, or more specifically, the concept of NFT fractionalization come to be?
Like in general, or to me? That's. Yeah.
Well, what your thoughts are, as far as you know, as far as like your thoughts, your exposure, your awareness of the idea, of the concept.
Yeah, okay, got it. I mean, let's see. I think Niftex were the first ones actually in 2020 that started working on fractionalization. Before that, also, there were some ideas floating around, but the thing is that fractionalization, I mean, it only started making sense when NFT as an asset class sort of started emerging. So, if you look at the history of NFTs, I mean, I was there when OpenSea just was launched, and there were like these, or there were some other marketplaces as well, and there was not much traction. CryptoKitties was the only major event in 2017, and apart from that, there was just nothing. And then in 2020, we started seeing punks getting great volume, and then crypto art, actually 1:1 art, was getting popular. And I think around that time only, as NFTs were emerging, as the value of some of the NFTs was, going through the roof, the idea of fractionalization sort of started coming to the picture. Before that, if there was sort of like the NFT market itself was so small that fractionalization market is like a subset of the NFT market. So that would have been so like pretty small. So I mean, that's when people started thinking, okay, that they would like to collectively own some rare NFT, and like yeah, there could be some interesting ideas around fractionalizing, creating pieces of the same. So Niftex, I think they were in June 2020 or something around that time when they launched the V1 or they were launched the beta or something, and they got pretty popular actually at one point. I remember one of the largest, like the person was holding highest number of, or one of the largest number of sandbox parcels. They had fractionalized something. There was a very rare Axie that was fractionalized, a very rare punk. It was the alien punk, I think. One alien punk, which was very, which was very. I mean, it was very rare, basically. So that was fractionalized, and then from there, I felt like yeah, it sort of started picking up. But then again, the problem with Niftex and why, I mean, the protocol itself was pretty basic, like how the trading and the buyouts were happening. Right. It was not great actually. The buyout process was like, um, it was really messed up. Like in order to reject someone's buyout was almost impossible on Text. Um, so yeah, that's how it started picking off. Then Niftex also came up with their own version, version two. Again, that also had a lot of issues. It had good UX. Like before that, even the UX was very bad actually. Yeah, so that's how it started picking off. It just started picking off with the NFT market, as we saw people's $69 million sale. There was some other art pieces. And
Hello?
yeah.
Okay, cool. Wanted to be sure. I thought maybe my network was.
No, there was. I got a
Yeah,
call.
no.
Sorry.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Cool. So yeah, that's an interesting background to all of the idea of fractionalization of NFTs, and I think it's it's I think it's a cool idea and a cool design from a technical standpoint that we're able to do this, knowing in the default nature of NFTs, which is a single unique token that is unique to itself. And when you introduce fractionalization, you are able to split that token, which is it gives everyone a piece. It's like having a plot of land, and then you're able to carve out like different portions, from that plot of land to separate individuals who are interested in buying and having ownership on a piece of land. And that's an interesting idea. However, though, one of the things I'm curious about, and is an idea that I don't know if it's possible to explore. If it is ethical, that's a completely different conversation. But if it's possible to explore, will be using these using having a fractionalized version of an NFT to gain, what would you call it, access into, say, a DAO, for example. So to further bring this home, like the developer DAO, for example, to gain access, a user needs to purchase a single NFT, and then the NFT goes through it's verified by this Discord bot where you're able to, it goes through your wallet, checks that you have the NFT, and if it says that you have the NFT, then boom, you gain access into the DAO. So, point is there a world that exists where having a fraction of an NFT that gives access to a DAO gives you access to the DAO, or is that nothing? Is that not a solution we should be exploring? Is it technically impossible to do that? Or is there a way the privileges of this DAO needs to be designed for this to be possible? I first of all, my question to this would be like, why do you want to use fractions instead of like, for example, just using in the NFT here? Like, yeah. Yeah, obviously. So my first response is I'm just curious. Second response would be, say this token runs out, right? It's limited. I think it's capped at I don't know 10,000 perhaps, and you don't want to lose your ownership to this token, but you want to get more people in, perhaps. You're able to have that in fractions, and people can get access to the same piece of valuable information without you losing access to it. So that is one reason, for example. Got it. That's actually a very valid reason, and I mean, okay. So it's a very simple way you can do it actually. This is something which we were discussing with someone who runs like a token gated group as well. And the thing with them also is that they have some number of NFTs that they have already given out, and they don't want to dilute the overall supply also, right? That you don't want to dilute from 10,000 to make it 50,000 or something. I mean, that can be one solution. If you're fine with that, I think you can just, when you are deploying the NFT contract, then only you can, for example, you can, when you're deploying the NFT contract, only then you can specify that there is a minting function and you can mint new NFTs. And or another thing you could do potentially is you can create another set of NFTs like for future if that is not the case. And in the Discord bot itself, you can somehow collaborate. You can change the settings that maybe there can be two NFTs that can be used for token gating, and so that is one solution. But if you don't want to do that, you don't want to release a new NFT collection, or you don't want, you don't want to dilute the original NFT owners. You can do this like you can potentially like someone can take their NFT and fractionize it and
in the Discord itself, like let's say you want to create, some sort of like you want to create a sub community, for example, then you can in that Discord you can have one channel which is token gated, but the token gating is done via the fractional token, because fractional token is just an ERC20 token. For example, in our case, it can be some other token as well, like for example, fractional or Dart. They are now moving to ERC1155 for fractional tokens. So I mean, sure, it can fraction token can be like ERC1155, ERC20, whatever. But in our case, for example, it's ERC20, and you can create a sub community within that particular DAO using the fractional token as for token gating. So that is definitely possible. You can, and the advantage of this would be if you don't want to dilute the original supply, and like you want to keep your current NFT holders happy, right? Because they might have bought into something and they don't want to get their, original NFTs diluted, like the value of the NFTs. But you don't also want to only just limit, the members to 10,000. You might have like give the original 10,000 people access to everything, but you might want to, also include new members for some things. Like you want some customizability there. So for there, sort of for that use case, you can actually take a fractional NFT, have a lot of, define what token gating amount you want for the same. Like for example, you're creating 100 tokens from that NFT. You can say if you hold minimum 5 tokens, only then you'll be able to access this channel or whatever. So that is definitely possible. But I feel like, yeah, it depends a lot on the use case. And it might not be the best solution to use fractionalization here. Yeah.
Yeah, also it has to be thought through ahead of time. So it's sort of like thought into the design of the smart contract, right? Because again, I think an NFT like the developer DAO NFT, for example purposes, has been deployed and it's a smart contract, an NFT that exists. So can that itself be fractionalized? Okay,
Yeah,
well, yeah, it can be. Okay, then it needs to be written into the structure of the DAO itself, and they need to, approve it as a what would you call it, as a means of getting access into the DAO.
Yeah, that is actually pretty easy, I think. Yeah, that is like off chain, right? That is not even on chain. Like when you are verifying that you can use Collabland and you can like I think I'm not exactly I don't familiar with Collabland right now. Like I used it a long time back, but I think you can have multiple token gating options there. So it's just very easy to do that actually. Yeah. So it's fractionation might make a lot of sense if you have already deployed the contract. And you want to get new members, etc. But if you are maybe just starting off and you think that in future you might want to get more members in the community, then it might make sense to just in the contract have some minting function or do some just think about it. I mean like the design. Yeah.
Yeah, really cool. I think some of the interesting things, especially when we're thinking about, a solution like this, but I'm also thinking about the problems that might come off out of this. One of which will be if and when NFT owners are able to fractionalize their NFTs, there could be some form of monopoly or inflation in price. Inflation is the right word. So so again, when the commodity is scarce, I have an NFT, and then a lot more demand is there. I can choose to sell it a fraction of it, right? So like 5-10 times higher because everyone wants a piece of this cake at this point in time, and there's nothing you can really do about that because there's a sovereign power of the individual to choose to auction or sell these tokens at these prices. But so yes, these are interesting ways to sort of think about the potential problems that might arise with this particular solution.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. I mean, that is definitely possible, and but I feel like that is not even that's not a tech problem. That's a social problem, and I feel like
yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, it has nothing. It's not. I mean, we've moved past like the tech side of it. That becomes a social problem of the individual and other things to think about. Apparently, from your explanation, the tech side of things are solvable. They are possible. The possibility is there. Is it necessary? That's a different question relative to how relative to the problem trying to be solved. So yes, that does make sense.
Even on social side, actually, I feel like that how markets usually work is that like for example in crypto, I think there's something that comes, there's like boom, like lot of hype, and there's mania, right? For example, we're hoping that mania we can get for fractionalization. But and then there is like correction, big correction or something.
Yes.
And then there comes like the Gartner hype cycle or whatever you want to call it. I don't know, but there's then stability. There is some. Then there is maturity in the market. Market understands what sort of use cases this does actually solve. What's the advantage of this? For example, we got liquidity mining. I mean, liquidity mining had a lot of mania. It's still getting used somewhere. I mean, not that much, but somewhere it's getting used. We had play to earn games. I mean, so much hype, so much money put into games by VCs and like etc. etc. But like it crashed down again. It's not like it will just die down. There is some sustained usage, and it will still continue. So I think like for example this problem that you're saying that people might pay very high, I think that already has happened actually with fractionalization, that people did pay like very very high amounts for fraction tokens, because there was so much hype and they got burned. And now like I mean I feel like it has sort of hit the correction, and we will see some more sustainable and use cases, and market also sort of understands like that it doesn't make sense to buy at a very high premium, even a fractional token.
Yeah, it makes sense that. So yeah, even as much as you could possibly inflate the price, it is subject to what the market is, what everyone else is selling same token for. So that is there to be considered as well.
Yes.
Yeah. So again, so yesterday, one of the things you talked about that I really, really like was, I mean, at first I was like, hey, but then eventually when you explained that, when we went through the demo, was pretty interesting was the idea of delaying the sellout or the buyout rather of a single NFT. Is the will and the what do we call the typical buyer. So preventing the will from having monopoly over a particular asset where everyone comes together as a community and they prevent that. So for everyone listening, if you weren't in our explain like I'm five session over on our Discord, which you can join on the Dapp List Twitter account, and you can find our Discord. Arnav here walked us through one of the really cool features of Nibble, which is buying out. So buying out basically means while there are fractions, while everyone can own fractions of an NFT, a single individual, a whale possibly, can come in and buy the entire NFT and own that. However, the interesting thing with this is the buy order or the sell order isn't initiated immediately. There's a time period between when the community gets to decide if they think this particular token is worth, or if they would rather have someone else have monopoly over this token, or they buy up the price and they outbid the current whale who wants to buy the NFT. I think that's really, really interesting. So I'm just mentioning that for FYI for everyone here listening, that the buyout implementation by the team over at Nibb is really cool. Really pretty cool. So from a technical standpoint, we just dive into some technical jargons here. We don't have to go in depth. How does the fractionalization work? So there is an NFT, and then it is broken down into multiple tokens. And you, as an individual, get to decide how many tokens it is broken down into. And when that NFT is broken down, does it remain? Do fractions of that NFT have the same, what would you call it, identity as the parent NFT, right? So it's like, do they have DNAs? So the fractions become children. Do they have DNAs of like the parent NFT, or are they just completely different tokens, right? By nature of the design of software, but they are you can trace their ancestry to that parent NFT. If this makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, the process is actually very simple. So, what happens is that when you are fractionalizing, you lock the NFT in a smart contract, and you are creating ERC20 tokens that are, from that smart contract itself, actually, in our system. First, for example, so the NFTs are linked. I mean, you can see that these tokens, what's the contract address, and you can find this contract has, the NFT also in it. And yeah, there is then trading that happens actually in our system again on that smart contract itself, because we have like that inbuilt AMM, which is like a bank or bonding curve. And then there buyout, and in the case that a buyout happens, for example, where someone is able to successfully bid and successfully bid on the fractions NFT, then the NFT can be unlocked by them from the smart contract to their wallet. And money they actually provided from the for the buyout, it gets locked in the smart contract, and the people who held the tokens, they are able to redeem their tokens for the money they put in. So that's the process. I don't know how much you guys can visualize, but it's a very simple way. It's like there's just a smart contract that has all the logic, and when someone is fractionalizing, the NFT gets locked, and there is logic there, how the tokens get traded, how the buyout happens, etc., etc. You can see, these tokens are backed by the NFT. And actually, we are also introducing some interesting things. We are going to support ERC 1155 soon, but one which we have done also is we have created sort of a new ERC20 token standard in a way for fraction token. It's a very simple, actually, ERC20 token standard. It just has a image hash variable, and in that variable, you can actually add the image, like the original person, when fractionalizing, or even actually after fractionalizing, they can add the image hash. So, like, yeah, that is also there. I mean, and yeah, so you can basically see what NFT it is that you're buying for.
Right. Right. So does that also mean when you make fractions of these NFTs, is it relative to the value of the current NFT? So a typical example would be the doodle you have on your PFP. Let's assume it's $1,000, right? When you make fractions of it, does the smart contract know how much this NFT is worth, and does it divide every single fraction, and then it's relative to the total? So $50,000, let's say you make 5 fractions of it. Does it know that every one of those fractions should be sold for $10,000 as it represents what the market sees?
Okay, so
or do you set the price as an individual? And if it's custom, sorry to cut you off, if the price is made custom, how exactly is that? Does that affect the actual value of this NFT?
Yeah, so price is custom because getting price of an individual NFT on chain is not possible yet. There are protocols working on like appraisal protocols, for example, Upshot and etc. that are trying to make it like that are trying to basically make it possible to get the price. Yeah, possible to get price, but right now that's not possible. So that we are just leaving to the original NFT fractionalizer how much price they want to their fractions at to start trading. So for example, you can allow the trading to happen around, let's say, if it's a doodle, around 80 ETH or something like that. And once that is, once the original person can set the initial fractionalization point, and once that is set, you can basically, um, the market decides the price. I mean, if they're going to buy, let's say you set, and like you can set the initial valuation and supply. So let's say you set a valuation of 10 ETH and you are creating 10 tokens initially. So the price per 1 ETH. And as people buy in, like let's say you put in 1 ETH, you will get not actually 1 ETH, you will get like let's say 0.95 ETH. Then the next person, when they put in 1 ETH, will get around zero point 0.9 ETH or something like that. So it's like a bonding curve. And yeah, like as that happens, yeah, the market can just start trading, buying and selling. And as there is buying and selling, there are also some other things that are on the platform. Like the original person, they also earn some royalty whenever there is trading, etc. But yeah, that's another point. So yeah, that thing actually, the original person can customize how many fractions they want to create, what should be the value of them, etc. That is just completely customizable, and then it's up to the market if if they value it at that price and they want to participate in buying that actually.
Yeah. So that means when this is done, so this is pro and con. Pro means you can increase the price relative to the market by the fractions. When if you do the math, if the individual does the math correctly, the entire fraction when it's totaled could be potentially more than what the NFT could be sold for as a single whole. However, let's assume this it's being custom and it's not being the price isn't what the market says, higher or lower, doesn't, we wouldn't, it's not a big of a deal. When the buyout is initiated, is it initiated on the true value of the NFT based off the market, or again, this is based off of what the individual has custom set?
Buyout is triggered on whatever valuation it is the token is traded right now. So there could be a scenario the value of, like, let's say Doodle's floor is 10 ETH, but the fraction token is, let's say, trading at 5 ETH, right? And if a buyout is triggered, it will be triggered at 5 ETH. Or there could be a scenario also there's the token is getting triggered at 100 ETH. So we trade
Yes.
triggered at 100 ETH. So that is just on the value of the. It's like our own economy. Like it's independent of what's happening outside
Yes.
the system. Yeah.
Yeah, cool. Just wanted to know that. Okay, cool. So essentially, when an NFT becomes fractionalized, it exists as its own entity outside of what the entire ecosystem says about it.
Yeah.
Does that rhyme? Does that apply?
Yeah. True.
Yeah, cool. So these and obviously this from the explanation and everything that we've gone over, it's not entirely the case that these fractionalization of NFTs are necessarily restricted to piece of art, because we talked about DAOs and we talked about primarily DAOs. So I want to let's think of a different use case, right? Let's say a piece of land or a piece of an apartment, for example. Let's say this is 2030. We're living in a very digitalized future where everything has an NFT, right? You head over to New York, you need to purchase you need to pay for rent in an apartment, and you're issued a fraction of a whole NFT that represents the entire apartment. Saying that in itself is actually pretty damn cool. However, but it's now it exists on the blockchain and stuff. And then a different example would be a whole NFT exists, and then you want to purchase a piece of land, and then you're given a fraction of that piece of an NFT that is relative to the land. What do you think about that entire concept?
So you're saying fractionalization of real estate, basically, and will that happen as well in future? Right. That's the. I mean, sure. I think that will have a bit of a different direction of what is happening with NFT specific and what we are doing. I mean, for that use case, I feel like you don't even need like a 1:1 NFT and then fractionalize it or something. Just probably 1155 sort of base tokens would be better. Fractionation of real estate has been proposed. I mean. By a lot of people. Like, since 2017, I have been in the space, and I have seen, like, someone like like uh, like like someone has been trying to solve it. Like every few years, I find people, but I think the issue there is actually not on the tech side, etc. It's on the legal and the regulatory and the sector side. I mean, people might even buy it. It's just that I don't think it's possible to take real world assets and sell tokens on blockchain. Like the government has like too much power with real world assets. It's like it's a bit challenging. So I think it's the legal aspect of things. How you can actually do it is not exactly clear, because you are essentially creating like securities of a home, and that can, like, the government is pretty like serious about like legal and real estate and stuff. So I mean, yeah, I think that's the main issue. Like there are a lot of platforms actually that have tried to do this, but yeah, it's not uh, worked out because of legal reasons.
Cool. So, I think from it sounds plausible, but I guess we'll be looking at more deeper issues than just the technical feasibility of that. Cool. So, Anna, what were some of the interesting issues or some of the interesting problems you had to solve while you were building Nibble? And did any of these bottlenecks, these bugs, end up being features?
I think the biggest one, let's see, it has to be auditing actually, I would say. I mean, finding good auditors is like really crazy. And like the thing with smart contract development, I mean, I did work at some companies, but I didn't, you know, I didn't understand a lot of things about the overall processes and stuff because I was not like, yeah, I didn't have an idea on the business side and also on the tech side both, and overall timing and stuff. And this is something which I had to learn also, wherein it's very different from full stack sort of development, front end, back end development, and basically the thing is that the process life cycle is very big for smart contract development. And you have to, because you, for example, you have an audit time, you have to wait for um, we have to wait for like 3 months. Three, you have to apply for an audit 3 to 6 months before. Then you have to plan your life cycle accordingly. Um, and after the audit, also there might be some changes. Then you might want to do a bug bounty. So, for example, for our case, we did an audit, and then we also did a bug bounty. And then we were like, okay, then now we are confident we can launch. And that was not a very smooth process. For example, once we audited our protocol, we were also not sure on whether this is all what we are going to publish before main launch. So we did a beta program where we tested some things out. We tried to understand like user behavior. Then we made some small changes, and then we actually went for the public audit on Code Arena. And then now after that, we are not making any changes, of course. But that itself, the life cycle is very big, and you have to be really patient. Um, and the quality of code, for example, there has to be 100% test coverage. You have to follow all the best practices, and the smart contract sort of also the tech stack is still not that mature. It's still getting developed. So that is also something which is something which you have to keep in mind. And we have like most of this work, but like actually all of the work was done by one person. I was working on the architecture side, but all the code was written by one engineer, which is also amazing. I mean, he has done a good job. And yeah, like it was I think that has been it has been really stressful, to say the least. To and you are all, as a protocol, you're always worried of hacks, um, and everything. But luckily, in our public audit, we didn't find any high risk bug. We found some very basic bugs, which didn't put any funds at risk. So nice. That was really good, because usually when I look at Code Arena and some bounties, there we find some, everyone, like, even for example, one of our advisors, he's a co-dev at Sushi. He was also telling me, and we also looked at Sushi's like bounty. They had like quite a lot of bugs actually. Obviously our system might not be as complex as Sushi's tried, but still it was quite a good validation that that we have written good software.
You're doing some things right.
Yeah.
Awesome, cool. It's very, it's humbling, and it's also liberating to realize that even though there are interesting, more complex protocols, you were able to write software that wasn't as buggy as theirs, perhaps. Awesome, yeah. Cool. Again, so first off, thank you everyone for joining us so far. This has been really, really fun. We will be winding down and just like turning things down as we come towards the end of